When going on a holiday, we are, as a rule, looking for happiness. We are also looking for impressive experiences, or rather very impressive experiences. And we are very happy if we can share these moments with others. We are looking for social contacts and merry contact, or we just want to rest. So this is, if you will, the product use of holiday trips that we expect as customers and guests. Here at the ITB, I think everyone agrees that tourism is a future industry that offers quite a range of opportunities for people who want to commit themselves to this industry. And within this industry of the future, because of the tough competition, there is, of course, a need to take care of our customers. And it's not for nothing that we just heard about the robots and how they would be accepted by guests, because, of course, the perspective of the guests is so very important. The guests, that is the tourists, they travel in order to follow their motivation that made them plan their holiday trip to begin with. Here at this ITB convention, we are, as a rule, looking at other subjects: digitalization, distribution, climate change, marketing, refugees, robots, whatever. All of these are very important topics that also have an impact on the future of tourism insofar as they enable tourism or, enable tourism to be better or different. We just saw and met this lady a moment ago. She's something like a vegan tourism information center without flesh and blood. And, it would be very interesting whether we could, for example, develop a robot that could on holiday themselves, replacing the customer. But we have not yet come there. Another subject that's very prominent, apart from digitalization, is, of course, the subject of pricing. Optimierung, Urlaub, for example, is in its advertising announcing that you've got rebates up to 40-50%, that you get coupons, and these are all, very important strategies for the distribution and as to whether they can sell something or not. But whether we go on holiday doesn't really have that much to do with pricing. I think that the hotel industry, or rather the tourism industry, has to look more into the question of customer benefit, which is why I would like to talk exactly about that, the customer benefit. Because I think that the future of tourism does not depend entirely on whether we offer free Wi-Fi in hotel rooms or whether we've got an especially smart business model for an online travel agency. I think the rather more relevant question is whether the customers will want to travel in the future, and they will only want that if they experience that their wishes and desires are being fulfilled. And then they can, in the end, talk about happy holidays, or rather fulfilling holidays. And you can see that in this old historical ad that it was always a motive also in holiday advertising. And we now have to differentiate between the marketing tools. This is something that's got something to do with distribution, where the industry tries to actually enter into a good contact with the customers and tries to get their attention. We also have to look at the strategies of customers when they decide which offer to choose, if you've got different offers of the same quality. And here, of course, the accessibility and the price does play a role. And then the tourist motivation for changing the physical environment, why people go to the Harz mountain region in Germany or to Thailand. And these motivations play a very important role for us in tourism research. We found out that people want to get away from everyday life, relaxation. They don't want to feel any stress, and they want to find new strength, be free, have free time. They want to have sun, warm weather. They want to experience nature, or they want to just have time for one another, which they can't in everyday life. Okay, not very original ideas about why you would go on holiday or why you would feel happy. But are our products actually conducive to that? This is from a study that's been around since 1971 that tries to look into the motivations of tourists and attitudes and ideas in Germany. We've been doing this for 46 years. I myself have been doing this for quite a number of years 2022. And on Wednesday, we presented the first results of this analysis here at the ITB that shows how many trips Germans undertake and what's happening when there are attacks carried out in Turkey and so on and so forth. The data that I'm going to present are also part of this travel analysis, which is why I'm mentioning it.
We give you the sort of driving factors that people want. They want to escape everyday life, they want to escape bad weather, enjoy nature, get a bit of relaxation, spend some nice time, relax with nice people and get some new experiences. That's the motivation that drives us. The motivation has a consequence. The consequence is going on holiday trips. The holiday trips themselves have an impact, and that's where happiness can come into play. One of the effects of going on holiday can be that you relax and recover, make new experiences, learn something, that you get a nice tan from the sun or a sunburn, that you get greater prestige with your neighbors because you can say, I've been to, I don't know, Cuba, that you get malaria. All these are effects that you get when on holiday. And it's those effects that we're looking into today, partly because the industry itself keeps advertising the recreational effect or whatever. You go to southern Tyrol, the effect is recreation. Or you go to San Diego, you get happy. Not just in San Diego, but Aruba. Aruba is really fast. That's a short path to happiness. Your shortcut to happiness, as they advertise. It goes on too. You can do the same thing in Schleswig-Holstein. Austria too, they advertise with happiness. You know, happiness growth area. So the tourism producers promise a certain effect, but they tend not to really look into whether that product promise is kept. What could the personal effects of such a holiday trip be? Well, they could be at different sort of time scales. Health, recreation, that tends to be something which is longer lasting. If you go on a health trip, you don't just want to feel well 2 days later when you come home, but you want to have a health improvement that lasts for weeks, months, maybe even years. But feeling moments of happiness obviously tend to be short term. You won't be able to have a lasting effect of happiness in the time after your holiday. Learning, well, that's a bit of a long-term effect. Sort of spiritual well-being, that tends to last a bit longer than spurious happiness, but not as long as health. So there are all sorts of different levels where effects can be achieved. And some of these we investigated in our travel analysis. We asked people after the holidays, did you relax? Did you think you experienced spiritual well-being? Did it do your health any good? And 75% came back from the holidays feeling, yes, there was definitely a recreational effect. That was a good thing because it's one of the main reasons why people go on holiday. 47% said their health had improved. 44% tell us they felt moments of happiness when on holiday, and 58% told us for their sort of general well-being and spiritual well-being, the holiday had proved to be wonderful. But of course, every one of these colored circles has got a gray share. You can ask, what about the other 25%? Didn't they relax at all? Or 53% that didn't get any healthier? Did they get sick? We have to ask ourselves, of course, that many people don't go on a holiday to get healthy, although they're happy if they do. And not everybody wants a recreational holiday. Some of them have different motivation. Now, there are two possible consequences of holidays that I want to look into, or I don't want to look into it. I want to share some of our insights with you. The first is happiness. People sometimes think you can buy happiness by going to Europe or by buying something from Nivea, where they promise you happiness if you use their products. Now, there are different concepts of happiness. What constitutes happiness? One of the ways of looking at happiness is something which has to do with attitude. You evaluate what you have experienced. It's a sort of cognitive, affective evaluation, and then you consider yourself happy after that. And the object of this is the holiday period you've just been on, or your marriage, or your car, or whatever it may be. So, yes, I'm happy with the holiday, the marriage, the car. That's a sort of evaluation where I can expect, this is what I could expect, that's how it went. So altogether, yes, I feel happy. In some surveys, people tell you that, this is where the happiest people live. They do a sort of study of that every year. There's a happiness atlas. It's the same concept. And basically, they're not asking for happiness or happy moments. They're asking for general satisfaction with life. A different concept of happiness is what we know from Buddhism. It is more a sort of spiritual state, often something which goes together with a sort of feeling of a need for freedom. You want to experience happiness, be at peace with the world. And so what you want is actually somewhat limited, but you get on with that quite well. That's also a way of happiness. How you define that is another matter, but that's something that people neither go on holiday for, nor do they find it on a holiday. The third concept of happiness concerns happiness as an emotion. That's a very brief moment in time, a feeling which comes and goes again. I tend to call it a golden moment. It's this sort of spurious element of happiness which does not refer to some external object. It's not an evaluation where there is something and you want to evaluate it. But of course, sometimes external objects can cause happiness. You see this beautiful moon rising and you say, oh, how beautiful. But this feeling of how beautiful is here now and gone tomorrow. But there's hardly any cognitive element to that. Christian Morgenstern, the German poet, gave you a poem. Happiness is like the scent of flowers as it wafts past you. Darkly you guess something amazing. Where no words will do, you close your eyes, you throw back your head, and all that it is gone. So you can see very quickly that happiness is something which you can't think about. It is right now, and you suddenly realize, yes, I'm happy. And that very moment it's over. On holiday trips, we have a great opportunity for experiencing these moments of happiness. We often spend time outside, and when outside you are exposed to physical stimuli, so like sun, rain, wind, and the physical contact with these stimuli can have a major effect on our psychological system, and it can mean that happiness hormones are released. The same is true for physical activity. Not everybody does that, but most people are a bit more physically active than they would be at home. Many people are out in nature. Culture is often a good thing too. And we have social contacts, which we have selected ourselves. And mostly we have these contacts for a slightly longer time than we have on an everyday basis. These, while not being a guarantee for happiness, provide the prerequisite for it. And of course, in a holiday, you can break the limits. You can go a bit beyond what is your everyday routine. And that is what makes life worth living, to do what you don't do every day, to have a change. So these are all pretty good indicators that you're likely to experience happiness, but nothing like a guarantee. If we do, however, feel these positive emotions, happiness and holiday, they tend to be of a short duration. But if you repeat them frequently, you may well end up saying, when asked about your attitude, that you may be happier, and that may be an expression of your emotional well-being. This is the kind of happiness which we looked into quantitatively. How often does that moment happen? Or who has more of these happy moments than other people? And what are the conditions under which they are experienced? And then we also try to do a quality assessment, like what is the essence of these moments of happiness? What is it all about? Are there categories? Can we describe what you experience? And what are the conditions under which you do experience that? So let me share that with you. 44% say they experience moments of happiness in our travel analysis. The first news is, oh, great. So that means holiday equates happiness? Well, sometimes, not everybody, but 44% do feel that. And this type of happiness goes across all demographic groups. It's not limited to just the young people or the old people or women or men. No, it exists everywhere and also in all types of tourism. But there are some areas which are focus areas. That is obvious because, after all, it's only 44% that experience it. People of below 40 years have more of this happiness. The people who go to long-haul destinations, whose trip takes longer, and if you have a lot of holiday activities. A high level of activities tends to make people happier than if they have very few. The more you do, the longer you stay, the longer you travel. If you have perhaps an inspiring company on your trip, that are all things that increase the likelihood of experiencing moments of happiness. But experiencing happiness tends to be independent of satisfaction, because the two are not the same. Sometimes one causes the other, but it's not necessarily so. We have also tried to find out what exactly that makes this happiness moment. And to do so, we found some small-scale interviews with tourists in a variety of different European countries. And the results, I mean, we're still working on them, so what I'm giving you is a sort of an ongoing process report. But the result is, what is it that constitutes one of these golden moments? What you feel when they occur and what happens. So what are our insights? People are able to describe such golden moments. So it's not as wordless as Morgenstern, the poet, said, in which different types of moments of happiness, golden moments, exist. We try to categorize those. And I would like to give you an example here. This experience of something, I have achieved something. I've climbed a mountain. Was a challenge, not impossible, but I made it to the summit. So I'm feeling well now, so good. Just to be up there and to know that you've achieved this. Or I'm traveling along the sea, the weather is bad, the wind goes right in my face, so does the rain, and I drink a stiff toddy afterwards and a cup of coffee, and I've got this feeling, yes, I've made it. Or even a car breakdown can cause happiness, because once you've overcome it and say, yeah, I sorted the trouble. Another aspect which we looked into are these sort of spiritual experiences. Something which can happen any time if you're open to that. Can happen when you're by the sea or on the town, on a mountain top somewhere, in a mosque, in a church, whatever. Or give you a third example. Being with other people and to realize that at the same time you all experience the same thing, or that you understand each other without words being necessary. That also can make people happy. These are the things that people told us in these quality interviews. It also became clear that frequently such golden moments happen in rather specific situations. They don't appear out of nothing, but there is something like a beautiful waterfall, and then suddenly this moment of happiness comes. But there is no sort of causal link. It doesn't mean that you see a waterfall and you will always be happy. Some people feel happiness, some don't. The way we imagine is a bit like this. There's the waterfall, that's this little blue box. It's something, an event or a situation where something happens. And that can or cannot cause a moment of happiness, but only if I am open-minded at that time for it and if the social environment fits within. Personal open-mindedness is sort of limited. Let's go to Vietnam. There's a wonderful waterfall, but you suffer from diarrhea, and the only trouble is how can I get away from there in time to reach the nearest loo? So you're definitely not going to be happy. Nor will it help you if you're with somebody who is suffering from diarrhea at the time. You won't be happy then either. So you've got to be open. Your social environment must make the moment of happiness possible. And then, yes, you experience this moment of happiness. And if you have a frequent repetition of happiness, that could well translate itself into this sort of assessment. It is beautiful here and I'm happy here. And then I learn something from that carries me into the future. Another example here. Regarding this event, I looked at something else which I call the total success vacation. You know, holidays which are really ace. In other words, we're looking at people who've experienced emotional well-being, experienced moments of happiness, came back really satisfied and feeling really good, their well-being improved. That's with 20% of all holidaymakers. It's great success. You can be very happy that so many vacationers experience that. But of course, there are also 4% who say, you know, they came back without any feeling of feeling good, no moments of happiness, not very satisfied, not feeling relaxed. Thankfully, it's only 4%. Now, the interesting question is somebody who had zero success or somebody who felt the whole thing was a brilliant success. What are the differences between them? And we tried to find those differences and didn't find them, or found very, very few. And that is interesting. So as one person, one aspect could be you spend a lot of money on your holiday trip, more than 1,000 euros per head and trip, then the likelihood of getting into this total success vacation group is better, but actually the money doesn't make that much of a difference. On the other hand, if you get into the 4% group, if the holiday was not so happy, it actually increases if you go to a destination first time. Maybe your choice was wrong, you don't like it there, or you don't stay for a very long time, 12 days or less. If you spend very little money, you visit your family, you better think about that. It tends not to be something that makes people happy. We also tried to find out whether there are any socio-demographic factors that would make a successful holiday more likely or less. There are hardly any. The differences seem to be virtually non-existent. Gender, income, education, all these other factors that tend to be good parameters don't work here at all. The only thing where there is a factor that's motivations for the holiday. We looked at the motives. You see 3 curves. The red one is the 4%, the bad effect. Green, that's the positive effect. And you see the green one is always way above the red one, also above the blue one. The blue is the average. So the people who had this fantastic holiday are the people who had an above average number of motives which made them go in the first place. Recreation, wanting to be free, have more time, having fun, getting more strength, getting spoiled, enjoying nature, basically everything. They had a lot of different motives. And that perhaps is surprising. So what does that teach us? There seems to be a personality difference, nothing to do with age or income. It means how open, how flexible are you? And that's partly due to the fact that you find a lot of things interesting and want to achieve a lot. Very curious. That allows you to go from one motive to the other. This isn't working, but who cares? I'm interested in that one as well. If you want to learn something for yourself, and those are 2 tips. Spend a lot of time on the holidays and spend a fair bit of money. Saving money isn't the thing here, especially when you're going on holidays. But obviously that's a bit too simplified. But what else is important? It seems that the success of a vacation is mainly due to yourself. Travel for most people means freedom. You can be on your own, autonomous. I've got the freedom to do what I love to do, what I've dreamed of. And the positive effects of travel come when that's just what I do. In other words, you make your own happiness. So there is your own responsibility, and that has links to the freedom you have. And that's not so much the tour operator, because that really isn't due to them. So let's get back to the happiness aspect here. So when happiness is concerned, then we have to say that that is extremely personal too. And these little moments of happiness may also mean that in the long run, you end up feeling more relaxed, having experienced better recreation and being more satisfied. But however personalized this may be, I think the tourism sector should look into this more, partly because you make that promise to people, happiness, so you must make sure whether you keep it. And to understand these aspects better can help you develop products, communication as well. It can also assist you in consumer protection. Don't make false promises. Or if it's a health effect that you promise people, make sure it does happen. And you can streamline your products accordingly, because maybe at the end we'll have a better effect of traveling, more and happier tourists. Industry can help you to get a better match of product and guest on the basis of this sort of assessment. In other words, you have to take seriously what people say are the motivations for their holiday and then find the products that match these expectations. And here I think there is a bit of a room for maneuver, because we're looking at all these sort of side scenes, convenience, price, but these are factors that only matter once I'm traveling already and simply want to select between a variety of similar products. But all products need to be set up in such a way that the central motivation that people have can be fulfilled. It can also be helpful to know, because it makes you aware of things, and you should see what are the beauties here, what can be the happy things you stumble over, enable experiences to be made if people are open-minded enough to experience happiness. And with this, thank you for listening to me.
Just get the permission to ask you a question or two. The expert for happiness is here on the stage. Is anyone who has the inner need to ask some questions, to get happier? I see you, hands up there. Yes? Please go over to the mic there, then everyone can listen to you. It's in the middle of the gang. The gangway.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation to begin with. I didn't see much about findings about city holidays. It was more related to nature, outdoors, overhaul. But we know that city holidays are a big part of all travels. First thing. And second thing, I didn't see anything about reaching happiness in the findings of the effects of the holidays. People of your surveys mentioning meeting locals, making some new friends, acquaintances, socializing. And to my view, this is, I think, I had this view that it was quite an important factor in determining that your holiday was successful, or you had a nice moment of sharing and meeting someone special. So these two things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't go deep into segments. So city tourism, for instance, or sports tourism or winter tourism. Of course, there's a different situation in each segment because you meet different circumstances. But nature seems to be quite important. So when it comes to these happiness feelings, being in the nature, at least, is more often reported as something which made me happy compared to cultural things which you can see in cities. The same applies to the social contexts you have during the journey, which I, from a theoretical or personal point of view, would say, yeah, that's a source of happiness, but people didn't report that. So they reported being together with the people they traveled with, their family or friends or kids, and sharing golden moments together with them. But, well, at least up to now in the qualitative interviews, these happy social moments with new friends have not been mentioned or mentioned on a rather low scale.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. One more question here. Please get up. Yes, move your body. Makes you happy because strolling along is a boost of happiness, to my knowledge.
Something, right?
I'm very happy to be here. My question is about happiness. The travel agency, I mean, there are a lot of travel agencies here. Usually they don't sell a trip, but they should sell happiness to the client in front of them. But you see, now with the distribution methods in computer and in the individual space, it is much more being sold through the computer where there is no emotion, no transaction in that section. Then, and on the other side, the travel agency has this component very, very strong. And that's what makes him successful. But this is confusion. I mean, why do the people go without buying happiness from people who does not give them the happiness, and then they go less to the travel agency, which can give them the happiness of or study this component?
Does not make you happy.
Well, we didn't study that. So we didn't make any relation between information and booking behavior and happiness during the holidays. So we didn't ask how people get there or got there and then related this to happy moments during the holidays. And we didn't ask for happy moments during the booking phase. But of course, you're right. So the personal interaction you have in a travel agency may prepare you for the nice experiences you can expect at the destination. But I'm not very sure, and that was not in the focus of our research, so I can't answer that.
Well, it might an additional input to your future question as a surveyor. Thank you for that.
Yeah, maybe I can say, is it the happiness is more for these people buying online? Is the happiness of them is during the customer journey more in researching than the holiday itself?
Yeah, we can check that within the data and see if people buying packages, tours, and buying them in a travel agency have more happy moments than those who did not. But I didn't do it until now, so I still can't answer it.
Thank you very much for you, Manfred. Having you here was a great pleasure for us with all your survey results. Thank you for having you as well. And if someone needs a recommendation for happiness within 2 seconds, just bite on a chili. It gives you immediate dopamine shock, and that will make you happy within seconds.
Great idea.
Thank you.